The hour of convening having arrived, all members of the House will please report to the floor and take seats. All members of this House will report to the floor and take your seats. Members should flee from the anteroom and make their way onto the floor. Mr. Clerk, would you ring the bell? We are going to have the morning roll call. All members present will please vote green to signify their presence in the chamber, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. Doorkeepers will please close the doors and keep them closed. Well, good morning. We are now in the beginning of the second quarter of the session. I don't know who's ahead, but it's clicking along here. We will begin our day today with scripture reading and prayer by the chaplain, after which we will pledge allegiance to the flag of our country. Our chaplain this morning will be introduced by the lady from the 52nd House District, the chair of the Martok Committee, Chairman Silcox. Chairman Silcox.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning. I'm delighted this morning to bring to y'all the senior pastor from Mount Vernon Baptist Church in Sandy Springs, Dr. Aaron Minikoff. Dr. Minikoff came to Mount Vernon in June of 2008 after completing his Master's of Divinity in Biblical and Theological Studies, as well as his PhD in American Church History from Southern Seminary. Prior to pastoral ministry, Aaron worked as a legislative assistant to the late U.S. Senator Mark O. Hatfield. After leaving his career in politics, he went on staff and served as an elder at Capitol Hill Baptist Church in Washington, D.C. While in seminary, Aaron served as an elder and interim pastor at 3rd Avenue Baptist Church. Aaron is the organizer and host of Feed My Sheep, an annual conference for pastors and church leaders in the Atlanta area. He also serves as the administrative team of the Greater Atlanta Baptist Network, where he leads a monthly pastors' fellowship. In addition to his pastoral ministry, Aaron is a visiting lecturer at Reformed Theological Seminary here in Atlanta and the author of Politics and Piety, Baptist Social Reform in America, 1770 to 1860. We are also joined this morning by his daughter Natalie, as well as his interns, and so please, we're delighted to hear from Dr. Minikoff.
Thank you, Speaker and Chairman. It's so good to be here this morning. I've had the same keychain for 25 years. It's a seal of the United States Senate, where I did serve as a legislative assistant for the late Mark Hatfield of Oregon. I enjoyed my job, and I enjoyed being in politics. I felt like I was at the center of something big and important. And sometimes when I hold that seal, I think about the bill that I worked on, seemingly night and day, S-88, the Local Empowerment and Flexibility Act. It gave local governments a little more control over federal funds. It never became a law, and I'm not here to lobby for it this morning. The senator must have known I'd be a little disappointed after the bill died, because he came to my desk to comfort me. the chairman of the Senate Appropriations Committee, comforting me, a young staffer. He knew I probably felt like I wasted a whole year of my life, that I failed. Our work often seems futile. More than one of you have lost a campaign. All that time talking to voters, sharing ideas, raising money, only to fall a few votes short. There are bills that you've tried to pass, only to be blocked, or bills that you've tried to block, only to be unsuccessful. You have felt the sting of disappointment. And it's not just politics, it's all of work. The plumber whose 2-hour job takes all day. The lawyer slapped down by a judge's verdict. The single mom working 2 jobs who misses her daughter's basketball game again. And it's not just work that seems futile, it's life. I recently attended Friendship Baptist for the funeral of Matthew Francis, the son of my dear friend Wallace Francis, one of the best receivers the Falcons ever had, and a faithful Christian. Wallace and Cheryl were good parents, are good parents, but tragedy struck, and I think there's nothing worse, nothing that feels more futile than burying your adult child. Listen to the opening words from Ecclesiastes. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. What does man gain by all the toil at which he toils under the sun? A generation goes, and a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. This legislative session will come to an end. You'll make some important decisions. Some of you will be in the news. Some of you then will retire. Some won't be reelected. Someone else will eventually sit in your chair. You'll wonder what you did. Your legacy will probably seem to you small. The same is true for me. I preach week in and week out. I do my best to teach and shepherd a local church. I work hard, and someday someone else will stand in my place, and I'll be a footnote on the church history page at Mount Vernon's website, if they have a church history page, and they probably won't. A generation goes, and a generation comes. Life can seem futile to all of us. Well, I stand before you as a Christian minister, but even secular scholars agree that the life and ministry of Jesus Christ appeared futile too. Jesus didn't have a good relationship with his brothers. They wanted more from him. Jesus never wrote a book or founded a nonprofit, and he had, at the time of his death, only a few followers. After his arrest, Jesus did not muster up his own defense. He remained silent while they cooked up charges against him. In his final hours, those he loved the most turned their back on him while he walked to Calvary, bloodied and bruised by leather whips and hammered to a Roman cross. Hanging there, Jesus knew that his life looked like a failure in the eyes of the world. He knew his whole ministry appeared futile. And perhaps the words of Ecclesiastes crossed his mind. A generation goes and a generation comes. What looked like an end turned into a beginning. Jesus upended failure. The cross was no accident, no unfortunate turn of events, and no surprise to God the Father. There's nothing futile about Jesus' work, about the cross. As sure as your work, at least for this 40 days, is legislating, and my work is pastoring, as Big Bethel AME tells us, Jesus' work is saving. Jesus saves. That's his work, and he does it perfectly. The Bible teaches that you and I are rebels against a holy God, that we were born that way. Each of us comes out of the womb caring more about ourselves than others, living life for our own glory and making decisions that are opposed to his standards. And the Bible has a word for that, and it's not a fashionable word to say in our day. The word is sin. It's from the Greek that means to miss the mark. We all miss the mark, God's mark. And missing the mark isn't a small matter in God's eye. It's a big deal because God is holy. Our sin against him is therefore infinitely terrible. And because of our sin, we deserve death and eternal punishment. Our work won't save us. Your good laws won't save you, and my so-so preaching won't save me. Jesus saves. You need the work of Jesus Christ. You need Christ to suffer in your place, to bear the punishment you deserve for your rebellion against our holy God. Jesus died for sinners like you and like me. He rose from the dead to prove it. And this is the gospel that's been preached for 2,000 years. No gospel, no Christianity. No gospel, no hope. Occasionally, when I rub that keychain in my pocket, I recall how I once saw myself at the center of something big and important. And if I'm honest, sometimes when I'm talking and people are listening, I'm kind of tempted to think I'm kind of a big deal. And then I see the cross. And I remember Jesus saves. And I realize afresh that I am nothing but a miserable sinner who deserves hell. And he is everything. The Lord of the universe who took on flesh and walked through dirt and went to a cross for individuals who frankly make a mess of the world every day. He is amazing. And I praise him. I'm an errand boy. He's the boss. So I pray that the Christians in your life are the humblest people that you know. I pray if you're a Christian, the people around you would know you to be extraordinarily humble. It doesn't mean you give in on your convictions, not at all. But it does mean that you are marked by something of the humility that can only come from recognizing that your God is big and important, and you are not. And when your work seems futile, or when you think you're a big deal, or when you feel crushed by the sin in your own heart, I pray that you would run to that cross and remember, Jesus saves. His work is never futile and is always perfect. Would you stand as we pray? Heavenly Father, you are creator and redeemer, the giver of every good thing, including deliberative bodies like this one. Give these legislators wisdom to manage the affairs of this great state. May they see you and your work as bigger and even more important than anything, and may they trust in you. In Jesus' name, amen. Let's pledge allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and truth for all.
Doorkeepers will unlock the doors. The chair recognizes Chairman Hogan, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Information and Audits has read the journal of the previous legislative day and found it to be correct.
Chairman Hogan, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits, reports that the journal of the previous legislative day has been read and found to be correct. Is there any objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. The clerk will read the resolution establishing the order of business for the day.
Mr. Burns, on our 59th moves found to be established as the order of business during the first part of the period unanimous consents. Introduction of bills and resolutions. First reading and reference of House bills and resolutions. Second reading of bills and resolutions. Report of standing committees. First reading and reference of Senate bills and resolutions. Morning orders.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the resolution establishing the order of business for the day? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. First reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 871 by Representative Holmes, the 129th bill being entitled an act to create the Jasper County Public Facilities Authority.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 872 by Representative Bernal, the 77th, Clanton, the 75th, Scott of the 76th, Stovall the 74th, and Schofield the 60th. Bill being entitled an act to authorize the magistrate of Clayton County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 873 by Representative Holmes of the 129th, Welch of the 110th. Bill being entitled an act to amend an act to create a joint county municipal board of elections.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 874 by Representative Holmes of the 129th, and Welch of the 110th. Bill being entitled an act to authorize the governing authority of Butts County to levy an excise tax.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 875 by Representative Nix, the 69th Collins, the 68th Cook of the 18th. Bill being entitled an act to amend an act to create the Carroll County Water Authority.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 876 by Representative Rose, the 120th. Bill being entitled an act to create the Greene County Airport Authority.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 877 by Representative Hogan of the 179th, Jones of the 167th, Mathis of the 144th, and Dollar of the 45th. Bill be titled an act to amend Title 40, Fiscal Code of Georgia Annotated relating to motor vehicles and traffic.
Motor vehicles.
House Bill 878 by Representative Fry of the 118th, Hutchinson of the 107th, McLaurin of the 51st, Kendrick of the 93rd, Alexander the 66th, and others. Bill being entitled an act to amend Title 16, 35, and 36, the Fiscal Code of Georgia Annotated relating to crimes and offenses.
Judiciary non-civil.
House Bill 879 by Representative Harrell, the 106th, Carpenter the 4th, Powell of the 32nd, Stevens the 164th, Fry the 118th, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 3 of Title 3 of the Fiscal Code of Georgia Annotated relating to provisions regarding the regulation of alcoholic beverages.
Regulated industries.
House Bill 880 by Representative Clanton, the 75th, Bodie of the 62nd, Trammell the 132nd, Beverly of the 143rd, and Hughley of the 136th. Bill be titled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the Fiscal Code of Georgia Annotated relating to elementary and secondary education.
Education.
House Bill 881 by Representative Cooper, the 43rd, Silcox, the 52nd, Richland, the 97th, Jackson, the 128th, and Rutledge, the 109th. Bill being titled an act to amend Title 19 of the Fiscal Code of Georgia Annotated relating to domestic relations.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 882 by Representative House of the 170th, Richland, the 97th, Corbett of the 174th, Green of the 151st, Chokus the 138th. Bill be titled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 8 of Title 48 of the Fiscal Code of Georgia Annotated relating to general provisions regarding the state sales and use tax.
Ways and Means.
House Bill 883 by Representative Gilliard to the 162nd, Hitchens the 161st, and Princeton 127th. Bill be titled an act to amend Title 49 of the Fiscal Code of Georgia Annotated relating to social services.
Public Safety and Homeland Security.
House Resolution 1036 by Representative Beasley Teague of the 65th, Bodie of the 62nd, Clanton of the 75th, and Schofield of the 60th. A resolution compensating Robert Charles Dukes.
Appropriations.
House Resolution 1037 by Representative Administration of the 104th, Parsons the 44th, Jones of the 47th, McLaurin of the 51st, Carson the 46th, and others. A resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution of the State of Georgia.
Governmental Affairs.
House Resolution 1038 by Representative Gordon, 163rd, Gilliard, 162nd, Stevens, 164th, Williams, 168th, Petrie of the 166th, and others. A resolution compensating Eric Gardner.
Appropriations.
House Resolution 1039 by Representative Gorton of the 163rd, Gilliard of the 162nd, Stevens the 164th, Williams the 168th, Petrie the 166th, and others. A resolution compensating Dominic Lucci.
Appropriations.
House Resolution 1040 by Representative Williams, the 168th, Beverly, the 143rd, Trammell, the 132nd, Bennett, the 94th, Hughley, the 136th, and others. A resolution apologizing for slavery and Jim Crow.
Judiciary.
House Resolution 1041 by Representative Gordon, the 163rd, Gilliard, the 162nd, Stevens, the 164th, Williams, the 168th, Petrie, the 166th, and others. A resolution compensating Mark Jason Jones.
Appropriations.
Senate Bill 296 by Senator Heath of the 31st. Bill be titled an act to amend Chapter 18 and Title 43 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to funeral directors and establishments.
Regulated industries.
That completes first readers.
Second reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 749 by Representative McLaren of the 51st, a bill relating to local government. House Bill 865 by Representative Scoggins of the 14th, Rich of the 97th, Fleming of the 121st, Silcox of the 52nd, Dreyer of the 59th, a bill relating to wills, trusts, and administration of estates. House Bill 866 by Representative Hogan of the 179th, Zanes of the 180th, Williams of the 148th, Mathis of the 144th, Gilliard of the 162nd, a bill relating to county police. House Bill 867 by Representative Martin of the 49th, Dollar of the 45th, Jones of the 47th, a bill relating to limitation on annexation of areas furnished services or included in comprehensive zoning plan by certain counties. House Bill 868 by Representative Martin of the 49th, Carpenter of the 4th, and Powell of the 32nd, a bill relating to sales and use taxes. House Bill 869 by Representative Blanton of the 75th, Bernal of the 77th, Bazemore of the 63rd, Schofield of the 60th, Douglas of the 78th, and others, a bill to amend an act creating the Clayton County Water Authority. House Bill 870 by Representative Barton of the 5th, Corbett of the 174th, Ridley of the 6th, Kelly of the 16th, and Scoggins of the 14th, a bill relating to horns, exhaust systems, mirrors, windshields, tires, safety belts, and energy absorption systems. Senate Bill 304 by Senator Gooch of the 51st, a bill to create a Board of Elections and Registration for White County. Senate Bill 328 by Senator Jones of the 25th, a bill to authorize the governing authority of the City of Jackson to levy an excise tax. 3 second readers.
Reports of standing committees. The clerk will read.
Representative Mark Newton of the 23rd District, Chairman of the Committee on Access to Quality Health Care, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Special Committee on Access to Quality Health Care is under consideration the following bills to the House. It instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 789 do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Mark Newton, 123rd District, Chairman. That completes the reading of the reports of standing committees.
We are about to go on to morning orders. Okay, here's the deal. Chair's going to allot 1 minute each for morning orders, but because of the number of people who have signed up, that must be strictly enforced today, or someone will have to come back tomorrow and do one. What that means is you better be ready. We're going to put you on the clock when we call out your name. Chair recognizes Representative Houston Gaines for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning. Today we recognize X and Y Chromosome Awareness Day. Today we're recognizing the genetic condition in individuals with either less than or more than 2 X or Y chromosomes in an individual's genetic code. As common as this condition is occurring in 1 in 400 males and 1 in 1,000 females, fewer than 10% of cases are ever properly diagnosed. The frequent misdiagnosis in these disorders can be detrimental to the societal, behavioral, and physical development of those affected, and yet for many years there were few to no resources available to those who needed them. Then in 2016, Dr. Amy Tallboy and Dr. Sharon Close at Emory University offered hope to these individuals through their work opening the Extraordinary Clinic. As we celebrate the great strides made by these citizens, let us also take time to reflect on how we can be supporters of those struggling. Today is a day we bring much needed awareness to this condition across our state, and we're honored to have families and doctors in the gallery here with us today. Thank you all for being here, and thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Chairman Ballinger for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll ask other domestic violence advocates that serve with me in the House to join me. Today is Stop Violence Against Women Day. As a House, we have passed significant measures to make it to added strangulation to the aggravated assault statute, allow domestic violence victims to break a lease, and many other measures that have made it safer for Georgians. And I would like all of my domestic violence advocates in the House, in the gallery, please stand, and we will welcome you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Chairman Hitchens for a morning order.
Good morning, colleagues. Today we gather in this House to celebrate the 48th Annual Firemen's Day. In Georgia, there are approximately 30,000 firemen, 70% of which are volunteers who do this job for our society without any monetary compensation. There are 900 local fire departments across this state. They put the well-being of society before their own personal health. I've worked together with them in my 43 years in state government. They do a great job. And at 2 o'clock, we're going to have an official ceremony on the South Steps, and I believe the governor is going to attend, and we'll have a lot of, any firemen here? If any firemen are here, I guess they haven't arrived yet, but let's all give a round of applause for the firemen who work day in and day out, 360 days a year, 24 hours a day to protect us. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Gerald Green for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To continue the Southwest Georgia recognition of famous individuals, and as part of Black History Month, I come this morning to talk about Rosey Grier, who was born in Cuthbert, Georgia, is an American actor, singer, Christian minister, and former professional American football player. He was a notable college football player for Pennsylvania State University who earned a respective place in the National Collegiate Athletic Association. And Rosey is just one of those individuals that has come out of my region in Southwest Georgia. And it is certainly with great pleasure this morning to recognize Rosey Grier from Cuthbert, Georgia. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Bodie for a morning order.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is a pleasure to rise this morning to welcome the women of Junior Leagues of Georgia on their 2020 Capitol Day. The Junior Leagues of Georgia stand strong with 13 leagues statewide and 10,000 members. The State Public Affairs Committee monitors state and federal legislation and advocates in their focus on areas of aid and protection, education, and healthcare. They support and promote civic engagement through programming and partnership in their local communities. The Junior League of Georgia invite their legislators to join them today for lunch in CAP 125 at noon. Join me in welcoming to the People's House, the Junior League of Georgia. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Rick Williams for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. have Leadership Baldwin up here in the gallery. If y'all would stand up and be recognized. Leadership students from Baldwin County. Thank y'all very much. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Kendrick for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning, colleagues. So we are welcoming a special group today, Georgia citizens with Third Tech for All Day of Action. And we had a great discussion on cybersecurity this morning throughout our state. And many of these citizens are going to be calling you to the ropes to speak with you today. So if you are a participant in this morning's Day of Action, if you could please stand so that we could give you a round of applause. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Chairman Belton for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 2 decades ago, back in 2002, Georgia ranked near the very bottom on the SAT. How many of y'all remember that? Raise your hands. A newspaper article in a prominent paper in Atlanta reported that we were number 50. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, dead last on the most important measure of a student's ability to enter college. Behind Alabama, behind South Carolina, behind Louisiana, behind Mississippi. But something happened at the end of that year. Republican Governor Sonny Perdue was elected, and Republicans went to work restoring local control, listening to our teachers, and returning authority back to the classrooms. Then Republicans started the very long and difficult process that was completed under Republican Governor Nathan Deal and continued by Republican Brian Kemp and this General Assembly of fully funding education for the very first time in recent history. What are the results? For the first time ever, Georgia beats the nation for 4 years in a row on the ACT. We have the 13th best score on the NAP last year, the nation's report card for the K-12 schools. We have recently with the 13th best AP scores in the nation, and for 2 years in a row, not one, but 2 years in a row, we're above the national average on the SAT. This terrific success of Georgia's children is due to the hard work of our amazing Georgia teachers and Republican leadership. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Chairman Fleming for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the day that I welcome Youth Leadership Columbia County, who's in the balcony with us today, it's quite appropriate that I also mention something to you about Augusta University, where some of these kids may go to school. Augusta University is educating the next generation of cyber professionals and inspiring future generations. The Georgia Cyber Center represents a unique public-private partnership that includes Augusta University, Augusta Technical School, the Georgia GBI, the Georgia Department of Defense, and several other federal agencies that work together to meet the workforce demand for cybersecurity in our state. In 2019, Augusta University signed a memorandum of understanding with the U.S. Army Cyber Center of Excellence to share resources and help develop a cyber-trained workforce through education, innovation, research, and outreach. For the past 2 summers, the university has hosted the Gen Cyber Camps for high school students and teachers. The camps were sponsored by grants from the National Security Agency and the National Science Center Foundation. Let's all congratulate the Georgia Cyber Center for the work they are doing to help keep our internet safe on this National Safer Internet Day. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Hutchinson for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. Today, I'd like to introduce you to Brian. Brian is a sweet, shy boy who loves to spend time with others. He likes to hear the voices of his friends at school and on the school bus, which he enjoys riding. Brian regularly has friends from church and school come over to play the piano for him. Brian enjoyed listening to all types of music. Today I introduce you to Brian to highlight the plight of medically fragile children who are available for adoption in Georgia. What these children require in extra care, they give back in extra love. And love is bipartisan. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Kennard for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Most of us in this room will not use anything we learned in school from algebra class, geometry, calculus, nor will there be any functional application today for most of us from the information gleaned from physics class, chemistry, or biology. But what we will use today and every day of our life is social studies. Sociology, U.S. history, world history, civics, ethics, all assist our ability to understand the world we live in, enhance our perspective and cultural understanding. It expands our empathy. Research proves that students who receive effective social studies instructions are more likely to be civically engaged, are more likely to vote, to volunteer and work on community issues. Social studies has been marginalized in recent years as math and science have been elevated, and I would argue that as a direct result, we are seeing more turmoil and conflict in our world, increases in bigotry and hate. The AJC reported this morning that social studies could be taking another hit as we are proposing reducing testing. Social studies teachers and advocates are very concerned as they understand what gets tested gets taught. My friend Debbie Daniels was the department leader of social studies in Gwinnett County for many years. She says social studies is what we do for the rest of our life. I agree. I yield the will.
Chair recognizes Chairman F. Strachan for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today in Gwinnett County, the Board of Elections office will be dedicated for Beauty P. Baldwin, who is a constituent that I represent. Ms. Baldwin has served a distinguished career as an educator and as a member of the Gwinnett County Elections Board. Because of committee meetings, I'm unable to go to the dedication today at 4 p.m., but I want to congratulate Beauty Baldwin on the well-deserved recognition and join with the members of the Gwinnett delegation in applauding her outstanding service. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative McLeod for a morning order.
Speaker, big up to my colleagues. Reflecting on the journey of Africans to the Western Hemisphere is not the beginning of our history, or is it the end? Although the exact numbers will never be known, the transatlantic slave trade is believed to have forcibly displaced 12.5 million Africans throughout the 17th and the 19th centuries. Some 10.6 million survived the infamous Middle Passage across the Atlantic. I ask for a moment of silence for the atrocities committed against these human beings. Black History, 366 days. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Representative Chokas for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is indeed an honor and a privilege for me to recognize members of the Sumter County Fire and Rescue Officers and Fire and Rescue Service. They're in the gallery. Please stand up, guys. I'm going to read their names. Jerry Harmon is the chief, A.B. Lewis, Clint Bowley, Rick Bell, David Baldwin, John Carroll, Mark Griggs, Hope Griggs, Chris Toms, Peggy Lynn Toms, Charles Horn, Chad Brown, Sabrina Ruda, Jameson Tyler, Heather Tyler, and Michael Drewberry. And the thing that I want to point out about our firefighters at home is the fact that we've got so many women in the fire department. So I would dare to say that we've got the best looking firefighters in the state of Georgia. We just had a fire in my district, of which several fire departments came out and helped out and lost 2 buildings in Buena Vista. So I want you all to join me in congratulating the firefighters from the America's Rescue Service. Thank you.
Chair
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Carter for a morning order.
Good morning. Thank you, Speaker Ralston, ladies and gentlemen of the House and our guests. Our moment in Black history. Did you know that Atlanta, the city too busy to hate, was once the site of a racist massacre that lasted 4 days when mobs of thousands attacked and beat and slaughtered any black person they saw on an Atlanta downtown street, destroying businesses, homes at will? It's true. Even most Atlantans, like myself, weren't aware that when they walk down Peachtree Street, enter the 5 Points MARTA station, or go to class at Georgia State University, they are in an area where 100 years ago, as many as 10,000 white men were involved in a violent rampage killing black people. Today, the tens of thousands of people who passed the statue of Henry Grady, located at Marietta Street, just blocks from the CNN Center, are probably oblivious to the fact that the bodies of 3 black men were heaped in a bloody pile at the base of the monument, which is dedicated to a famous editor. 1906, Atlanta was a bustling city, and September 26, 1906, through September 24th were the days of the massacres. The official death toll was 11 or 12. The unofficial death toll reached in the hundreds. Let us never forget. Let us never go back. Let us remember that we are all worthy of wealth. This is your moment in Black history.
Chair recognizes Representative Mathiak and Representative Pullen for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This morning, Representative Mathiak and I'd like to welcome the Berean Baptist Church to the state capitol today. They're up here in the top left-hand corner, and they have brought members from Pike County, Spalding County, and Henry County. So appreciate you guys coming up, and please come back and visit with us again.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Looks like our doctor of the day is going to require 2 members to introduce her. Is that accurate? Chair recognizes Representative Gardner and Chairman Parrish to introduce the doctor of the day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It is my great pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Cheryl Grabham, who is currently Surgeon-in-Chief at Emory and in the Grady Health System. She completed her medical training at Georgetown University, surgical residency at Washington Hospital Center, and received her MBA from the University of Connecticut School of Business. Now, normally we think about surgeons as people who just cut and sew. But Dr. Graham does a lot of interesting things in our community. Her current research focuses on decreasing disparities of breast cancer care through a community education outreach program and providing high-quality care for breast cancer patients at Grady Health System. We are very lucky to have Dr. Graham in our community, and I welcome her here today.
Thank you, Representatives Gardner and Parrish. It is quite an honor to spend the day at the Capitol. I would like to read a quote from the American anthropologist William Ward that reminds me of the skills that each of you have and the work all of you perform every day on behalf of the citizens of Georgia. Before you speak, listen. Before you write, think. Before you spend, earn. Before you invest, investigate. Before you criticize, wait. Before you pray, forgive. Before you quit, try. Before you retire, save. Before you die, give. My most sincere gratitude for the many hours all of you generously give in your roles as representatives for the state of Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you again. Where did you get that? The House will continue to be in order because we are about to recognize some very distinguished guests, and the clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 1013.
House Resolution 1013 by Representative Taylor of the 173rd, Green of the 151st, Parrish of the 158th, Smith of the 134th, Gaines of the 117th, and others. A resolution recognizing February 4th, 2020 as Community Health Centers Day and commending the Georgia Primary Care Association and for other purposes.
Chair recognizes Chairman Darlene Taylor for an invite resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. Today I share with you the mission of the Community Health Center system is to improve access to comprehensive primary health care services. Community health centers are known as federally qualified health centers because they receive grant dollars to assist in providing health care to the uninsured and the underinsured. Community health centers in Georgia began their work over 50 years ago, partnering with communities to bring access to health care in areas that are medically underserved. Currently, there are 34 health center organizations, all nonprofit 501c3s, governed by local boards that are made up of community leaders and patients. Collectively, these 34 organizations have 229 clinic sites in 120 of Georgia's communities. Many of these clinics are in rural communities. In 2019, over 600,000 patients were served at health centers. On your desk is a map showing where health centers are located in your districts. As we strive to increase access to health care in rural communities, health centers do their part by providing for pregnant care for women and pediatric care all across the state. By working together, Southwest Georgia Primary Care in Thomasville and my local obstetricians were instrumental in keeping our vital OB services available in South Georgia. In the gallery are the community health centers from all across the state and their staff. Thank you for what you do. Now please join me in welcoming Sarah Lang, President of the Association.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. And members of the House, I'm Sarah Lang, CEO of Valley Healthcare in Columbus, Georgia. I thank you for this opportunity to speak before you this morning. I and colleagues from across the state met with a few of you last evening and this morning, and there were themes that ran throughout the conversations that we had. Some of those included comprehensive, patient-centered, community organizers, patient involvement and engagement, and pharmacy services that were provided for members that didn't have the opportunity, and being able to provide services without consideration of the ability to pay. All of these just combine to define the community health center program throughout the state. And we thank you for this day of recognizing community health centers as CHC Day here at the Capitol. And as servant leaders, we also work with you to make sure that the residents, the citizens of this state, receive the highest quality of care that we can provide. And we welcome you and thank you.
Thank you. They're going to take a picture, so...
You're going to come over here?
Yeah. No, you step forward.
Okay.
Can we all get in there?
Clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 914.
House Resolution 914 by Representative Kendrick of the 93rd, Sessler of the 35th, Moore of the 95th, Caldwell of the 20th, Allen of the 40th, and others. A resolution commending Roy E. Hadley, Jr. and for other purposes.
Chair recognizes Representative Darshun Kendrick for an invite resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Roy Hadley.
Good morning, Speaker Ralston, leadership, Representative Kendrick, my fellow Bulldogs in the chambers. My name is Roy Hadley, and I am a cybersecurity lawyer professional here in the state of Georgia. I'm joined here this morning by Erica Moore with the Community Foundation of Georgia, of Atlanta, Greater Atlanta, and Erica Woods of Facebook. Thank you for taking time this morning and letting us speak to you for a brief moment. During the time that I speak to you, a cyber attack will occur every 39 seconds. 75 personal records will be stolen every second that I speak to you. Those records contain the personal information of you, your family, your friends, your colleagues, your constituents. The state of Georgia has a very robust technology community, fintech community, medical care community, all of which contain personally identifiable and very sensitive information. My challenge to you today is to help us, the tens of thousands of cybersecurity professionals in the state of Georgia, to keep this information safe and secure. What can you do to help us? 5 things I'll ask of you this morning. First, state and local governments are at the crosshairs of these types of attacks. I worked with the city of Atlanta in its ransomware response and recovery. Every community in the state is at risk. You can provide toolkits, you can provide resources to help these communities. Secondly, you can provide rapid response and recovery teams and resources to help communities that have been affected to respond. Third, you can help educate and provide the resources for our state and local universities, particularly in rural areas, to have robust cybersecurity programs. These programs will allow those students to go into the workforce and provide jobs to Georgians, which are sorely needed. Fourth, you can provide and pass comprehensive privacy and cybersecurity legislation. And lastly, you can enable information sharing amongst the resources in Georgia. This is a problem that affects each and every one of you, each and every one of us, and we need your help. Thank you.
Clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 1043. Katie?
House Resolution 1046 by Representative Dempsey, the 13th, Cooper, the 43rd, Trammell, the 132nd, Newton, 123rd, and Houston of the 170th. A resolution recognizing February 4th, 2020 as Obesity Care Awareness Day in Georgia and for other purposes.
Chair recognizes Chairman Dempsey for an invite resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This morning we are joined by officers of the Georgia Society of the American College of Surgeons and members of the Georgia chapter of the American Society of Metabolic and Bariatric Surgery across the state. Particularly, I'm joined here by Drs. Renee Hilton and Dr. Aaron Bolduc from the Medical College of Georgia and Augusta, Dr. Whipple from Memorial in Savannah, Dr. Jamil Stetler from Emory in Atlanta, and Dr. Danny Vaughn from Navicent and Macon, and others that are with us here in the gallery. Today we recognize Obesity Care Awareness Day in Georgia. Recognizing that the disease of obesity is a major public health concern which continues to grow, it has increased more than 20% over the last 30 years in Georgia. Researchers agree that this is a complex disease, greatly increasing the risk of developing many other health-related conditions that are life-affecting and very expensive. Prevention is important, and it is also imperative that individuals and families and all affected by this disease have access to and receive comprehensive care and treatment. Treatment shown without bias or stigma from general society and healthcare professionals. We as policymakers have the opportunity to regard obesity with the same level of seriousness with which we regard all other chronic diseases. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to allow Dr. Renee Hilton also to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Representative Dempsey. And thank you to the House for having us here today. So we are here today to spread awareness about obesity, a disease that we all know too well, as it affects people across not only the country, the world, but has a profound impact right here at home in our state of Georgia. It is currently affecting 1 out of 3 adults in the state of Georgia and 1 out of 5 adolescents. Obesity is not all about the weight, though. As Representative Dempsey has already said, it's also about the numerous medical problems associated with it. Things like hypertension, diabetes, heart disease, and cancer, just to name a few. Right now, we have a treatment, we have a cure, and we have a preventative measure that we are not taking full effect of in the state of Georgia. Right now, Georgia is one of 6 states in the entire country not providing bariatric surgery access to our state employees. That is something that we aim to change with your help. Providing this benefit will not only make our state a better workforce and a healthier workforce, but it is also financially responsible. It will save our state money. We can look to recuperate the full investment of surgery within 25 months. Please come join us on the 2nd floor as we tell you more about this disease and the process. And we've also brought our surgical robot, so we would love to see how many of you fare at the operating room table. We'll walk you through your first case. Thank you.
Clerk will read the caption to a group of privilege resolutions.
Honoring the life and memory of Gwendolyn Robinson Johnson. Commending the Georgia Rural Health Association and recognizing February 26, 2020 as Rural Health Day at the state capitol. Congratulating the Dublin Fighting Irish for winning the 2019-2020 GHSA Class AA State Football Championship. Recognizing and commending the Kennesaw State University Black Alumni Society. commending Sam X. White, the Southern Sky Center for Diverse Arts and Culture, and its Village Community Garden of Sylvester, Georgia. Congratulating and commending Harvey Lavoyd Causey Jr., commending the voyage to the Mayflower to this great nation, recognizing and commending MacArthur Jarrett, recognizing February 7th, 2020 as National Wear Red Day in recognition of the importance of the ongoing fight against heart disease and stroke in women, and for other purposes. That completes the reading of the privilege resolutions.
Is there any objection to adopting the privilege resolutions? The chair hears none, and the resolutions are adopted. Okay, we're going on now to announcements. If you have signed up for an announcement, make your way to the front of the chamber. Chair recognizes the chair of the Majority Caucus, Chairman Hatchett, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Majority Caucus will be meeting today at noon in room 403 at the Capitol. Today at noon, 403.
Chair recognizes the chairman of the House Rules Committee, Chairman Smith, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Rules Committee will meet tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock.
Chair recognizes Representative Bonner for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would just like to invite everyone to the weekly Legislative Fellowship tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. in room 107. It is free donut day, so I expect to see everyone there. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Ron Stevens for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, the House Economic Development and Tourism Committee will meet today on adjournment. Today on adjournment in 341. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Lumsden for an announcement.
Good morning. There will be a meeting of the Insurance Committee, House Insurance Committee in the morning at 8 o'clock, CLOB 606, 3 items on the agenda.
Chair recognizes Representative Dickerson for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Women's Legislative Caucus will be meeting in room 514 upon adjournment. Lunch will be served in room 514. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Beverly for an announcement.
Thank you, Speaker. The census, we will have an expert in room 514 today talking about the census at 2 o'clock, 514 from 2 to 4 in room 514. If you want to hear more about the census, please come out today. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Parsons for an announcement.
Thank you, Speaker. Energy, Utilities, and Telecommunications Committee will meet today at 3 o'clock in 403 of the Capitol. I don't think that the notice shows legislation, but we do have legislation to take up today. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Dollar for an announcement.
House Entertainment Working Group will meet today at 2 o'clock in 403. Thank you.
Okay, we've got pages that are waiting up here for their representative for their photographs. If you have a page here today, you need to be up here with them or it's going to be forever too late. Chair recognizes Representative Evans for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The DeKalb delegation will meet in room 216 upon adjournment. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
All right, listen up now. Chair recognizes the majority leader of the House for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move that this House stand adjourned until 10 a.m. Wednesday, February the 5th, 2020.
The majority leader has moved that this House be adjourned until Wednesday, February 5th in the year 2020 at 10 a.m. All those in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed will say no, and the ayes have it. This House will be adjourned until Wednesday, February the 5th at 10 a.m.